Hello, everyone. This is me in the beautiful mountains here. I should give you a peek. Oh, there's some extension cords. There's some succulents. My tent. So, I am popping on. I'm here on my tour in Santa Cruz. I've made it. And, oh, hello, sweetie. Yeah, so I'm just going to hope that the reception out here in the mountains is good enough to connect with you all. You can hear me over the birds. So this is a great opportunity. This is Ask the Inviisibles. And if I twist myself this way. All right. So this is an opportunity for you to ask a question for yourself, humanity, or the planet. And I work with a group of spirit guides that I call the Inviisibles, for those of you who haven't any experience with them. And I've been working with them since I was a young girl. And so we are popping online. I drove 20 minutes to get to reception to get here today. So great. Yeah. So we've got an opportunity to ask questions. So if you want to put a question on, you can put it on the thread. And then if you have a personal question that you don't want, if you have a personal question that you don't want your name attached to, you can send me a personal message. So here we go. So on this tour, for anyone that doesn't know, I've been touring for the last couple weeks and teaching all along the West Coast and going through all the different levels. I've driven through snow. Now I'm in the beautiful tank top weather. And something that's been coming up for me is this idea on compromising versus choice. So is there choice and compromise? Where the feeling, is there a difference? And so my question for them is if they have any guidance on that theme of compromising versus choosing, if there's any ideas on that. So let's see what they have to say, and then I will go to the other questions. But even thinking about that question, I feel like they just want to talk to you all because it's been a moment. All right, here we go. Oh, and the last rule of the work is believe it, receive it, and it. Looks like I've frozen. So if anything comes up during this session that you're not quite ready to digest and you want to get back to it later on, you can create a vibrational bundle, almost like a seed, and you can take that lesson or that teaching that's really stirring a lot up in you and just offer it to the earth and then get back to it when you're ready, so it's not being held in your body. And receive it. If there's something here that's really for you, it's a gem, it's a gift, it's gold to inspire you and motivate you in your path, then please do that as well. And leave it. If there's something that comes up that doesn't resonate with you, like oil and water, just slip right off. So really keep what's here for you. Otherwise, these are universal answers, I find, that they speak to whoever's called to listen. So let's go into compromising versus choice. As you develop who you are, you will understand and start digesting the fact that you are constantly compromising your soul's ideal agenda. That just comes, that is part of an aspect of being human. But it's in that compromising, it's in that adjustment, it's in that spaciousness that comes when you realize and when one can surrender, knowing that just the sheer expression of being alive is learning the art of compromise, learning how to be in the rhythm of a life that is different than the rhythm of your soul's direction. Now, where choice comes in is realizing that you have chosen this life. So above all else, there has been a choice, a significant, grounded choice that has come from a deep place of alignment in your soul. The most pristine alignment your soul has ever felt was the choice to be born. Okay? And everything else that derives from that choice, well, that's learning, that's experience, that's development, that's exploration, that's tasting the myriad facets of that choice. There's not much more we want to get into this question, but we do want you to know that you are all honored and respected, and by some revered for choice, and for all the compromises that come from that choice and will come, in finding the beauty and the elegance and the simplicity in living in that way of acceptance and celebration of this choice. Thank you. All right, that was beautiful. So the next person we have is we've got Ona here. Hello, my dear. She says, let me show this. She says, hi, dear. I would love to know what you see if him and I travel to a place called B. Okay. So just, a potent place. She also says she's been thinking a lot about compromise versus choice today, too. It's a theme. All right. So I would like to know what you see if him and I travel to a place called B. A potent place. Okay. Let's see what they say. We see a longing, okay? Now, this longing is something that many beings feel or face at different times in their life. And so the idea of this place is more about an avenue to express and explore your longing, right? Your longing to be fed and nourished and nurtured by the expressions and the choices that you make. So will this be an avenue to fully embody that expression? Well, that's something that's really up to you. But before to get very clear with what is level, deep soul level this fill me. And then how do we say this? What the ego is holding on to. So what we mean by that is that there is a strand of deliverance that the ego sends forth when there is a desire for an outcome. And so if that outcome is coming from that same strand, then it can be very easy to miss the point. So if that we feel we're here, let's rewind. So before going, or if you're in the debate right now of taking actions towards this journey, I want you to get very clear in your being and in this other person's being. What is the seed prayer that has been planted and is growing to the point where it's seeking the sunlight of this place? It's seeking the nourishment and the energy of this land that you desire to travel to. Because in us, there are many seeds that we plant, right? Seeds of intention, seeds of internalized growth-seeking momentum. And there will be times when that seed requires a very specific energy to incubate and accelerate its growth in. Okay? So when traveling to this place, if that is the next installment of the energy that you seek to help the seed grow, what is the seed, right? These are some questions you can ask yourself. What is the seed that's requiring this growth? What is the mutual seed that each of you are holding? And then what is your personal seed? What is their personal seed? Do they meet? Do your agendas deeply align with the course of action? Because that's where the fulfillment and the nourishment is going to come. Whereas if your agendas are split, and that's where the compromise too from the last question, there will generally always be some level of compromise. But we want you to be aware if this other person, this him, is coming on this journey or is choosing to go on this journey with you, what are their expectations of you? Who do you need to be? Who do you need to hold yourself as to live up to their expectations? And vice versa, but more on their side. And those are some questions that we want you to feel into. Otherwise, they're showing me like this image of a sangria. They're like, drink some sangrias or or non-alcoholic sangrias. They're kind of just showing me that it's really this getting to the root, and really almost like this image they're showing me is that the seed that you plant to go on this trip, what is the foundation that is built around this, because that's going to manifest in your journey. Okay, that seed is going to call in that manifestation. So getting really clear that both of you are coming from a very similar place, so that the journey can really feed what's being called within you each. So that, my dear, feels complete. Is for you. Have a great time. You go. And moving on. All right, so I'm just going to clear the space and welcome anyone popping on. Welcome to the mountains of Santa Cruz, California. Oh, you're welcome, honey. Usually I do this from my temple in Canada, but I'm on tour right now, teaching and sharing all over the place. So I'm getting creative. All right, so for anyone popping on, this is a place where you can ask a question for yourself, humanity, or the planet, and the Inviisbles, my crew of spirit guides, will support you and that answer with their own guidance. And so the next question we have is from Rachel. Hey, sweetie. And hello, everyone else. Hey, Scott, and anyone else that's just popped on that I can't see. All right, so the question we have here is, I'm working towards my calling to share the work I do with children and helping adults connect with their inner child. I would love to know if I'm going in the right direction. Oh, hello, Heather. I'm in the right direction. Do I need to make different steps? Do I need to work on anything in myself? All right. I noticed your picture says yes, and I feel like that's the answer in a nutshell. No. All right, let's see what they have to say. I know from my personal opinion of you, Rachel, I've always valued and deeply appreciated your work with children. And I feel like your inner child is so illuminated and vibrant that what next generation doesn't need that kind of support? All right, so this is for Rachel about her calling to work and share with children and helping adults connect with their inner child. I'd love to know if I'm going in the right direction. Do I need to make any different steps, or do I need to work on anything in myself? Okay, here we go. Before they even talk, I'm actually seeing, like, they're showing me this image of this, like, one woman show, and I'm seeing this image of you represent, like having these characters of, like, the inner child versus the adult in the adult world, and I'm seeing you, like, wearing this suit, like this fully businesswoman suit, and then going into this like one woman show where you can play with the dialogue. And I don't know, this is just I'm just seeing that, but let's see what they have to say. That was a bit of a little picture they showed me. Clear. Okay. Keeping it clear so that you can keep in that reverence for the essence of what brings you joy, while understanding that because you have come to this place of development in yourself, it's going to take reestablishing your understanding of how to meet others where they're at. Okay. Because many that are going to benefit the most from your work are people that have been confined through the rigmarole of such a structured livelihood, such a place of, let's see. Moreover, what we're trying to get at is that when you are developing your inner child's work to the world, creating this space, creating this sanctuary, it's important to also, we see the importance of you getting into where is that place in you that needs the adult to feel supported. Okay. That needs that part of you that's holding the inner child to create that spaciousness in your own life. Because in that spaciousness that comes with your own support network of yourself, That's more what's important right now, because the inner child that is the freest is the one who is able to be supported to fulfill and flourish in their freedom, right? Where their parents are holding such an expansive yet held boundaries for their freedom that they don't spin out to the point of not being able to assimilate the bliss and the joy and the creativity. So when playing with this work and going in these fields, remember that that container for yourself is important and for the people you're working with. So we see finding ways of playing with different archetypes that support that container for the inner child. So whether it's the mother or the grandmother or the sister, the big sister, the teacher in some ways. Because why we were showing earlier this image of this play and this theater is that that's going to be something important, this teaching for you, if you're open to that. That bringing theater into your work is going to be very rewarding. Okay. And the last thing we have to share is that they're showing me this image of us going upside down. And so being like quick to it, like finding ways of distilling things in a really like quick fashion, and like treating that in like almost as if you're working with other people, like adults, and bringing out the inner child is how would you teach kids, right? So instead of like it will be a little different, but they're showing this image of like this like be quick, like use a lot of the similar approaches you do with kids with going to start feeding with parts of them. Oh, hello! Facebook living over here. All right. So moving on. I hope that's helpful. So we have, let me just clear the space. I love that a mother and her daughter just walked by as we were doing that one. Okay, so the next question we have, and for anyone else that is popping on, you're welcome to put a question on the thread for the Inviisbles and myself. Or if you have a private question, you can send me a personal message. So I'm just going to check my personal messages, but I'm pretty sure you, Heatherland, James Kilpatrick. Oh, you're welcome, Rachel. Are next. Let me just double check. All right. It looks like you're next. I'm also sorry if this is, I don't know if the reception is very good. I hope you guys can hear me. All right. So here we go. So the next question we have. Hi there. I've been real stressed. Was wondering if you could tell how much longer this dark phase of bad luck will cast. Eek. Well, I know that time is a flexible subject and a lot of it requires your own work within that parameters, but we can get into, usually they'll get into what might be like around you or energetically around you or in your space that might be attributing or within you that's attributing to continually needing this, having this reflection for some reason. So let's see what they have to say. And hello everyone popping on. All right. Don't get caught in the web of commitments that in some way have been feeling like they are pulling you into their center. Because when developing our sense of autonomy in our life, in how we create our lives, and how life creates through us and around us, it's important to reestablish that all of these commitments have been made in some place from your core, from that part of you that has made that choice and that decision. Okay, so when we're getting into this bad luck and the misfortune and that fortune that we see around you, which is dark in some ways, we see something connected to your left hip or possibly your left ovary or both. These two areas in your body, okay, the feminine, the places that hold us, that hold creativity, hold the divine spark of life, and the ones that really hold up our capacity to be supported in our bodies. So as you're looking into what needs to shift, we see focusing on those two areas. So your ovary and your back left hip. But the other thing that we're seeing is that there is a few people in your life. There's one that we're hearing the word, oh, I'll just pop it. They're showing, I'm hearing like, it's something like mal or mal, like some, I don't know if it's a name or like, or mal or malnutrition or something with like mal in it. I wonder if it's connected to your nutrition. How is your nutrition? How's eating going these days? How this is related, I swear we'll get around the corner to it. Because I'm kind of seeing that, like sometimes in life when it feels like our whole world are just happening to us, or this bad luck, or like this, ailment upon ailment, like feeling like maybe, let me just double check if malnourishment is what they're getting to. They're saying something about sleep. So I don't know if it's like you're not, oh, you eat too much. Okay. Because the thing is about like when they're getting into like malnourishment and like also thinking of sleep, there's this feeling of like there's something in you that feels, oh, hello, Laurie. There's something in you that feels possibly like malnourished. So in some cases, the eating too much isn't necessarily mean that you're not malnourished emotionally, right? Or you're not malnourished spiritually. But that, let's see if they can get into more specifically what they're getting at. Okay. It's interesting, like I'm trying to speak to you and I'm seeing this, it's almost this energy of like a man that's like, I don't know, it's like blocking part of your field. Like it feels like it's hard to get through to you fully. So let me get into more of that. Like it feels, and why this could be in relation to is that when things like, sometimes when I confront that, when I'm communicating and you've asked me a question and I'm answering you a question, but then when the invisibles are trying to like speak to you, they're, in order to listen to you and feel you, they need to like go through and kind of navigate, right? And so I'm seeing it's more like when I'm looking at my screen this way, but I think it's, so this is my left side. It feels like they're not fully blocking you, but that there's someone's energy that feels like it's maybe really entangled in your energy, or I don't know if maybe that would have like karmic repercussions, or that you're taking on possibly the karma of this person in some way. Is there any guy that this would be? Okay. Yeah, like when they were talking about, yeah, I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm wondering, I'm wondering, but if you don't, I'm wondering if it's somebody. I don't feel like I'm really gonna get into who it is. I don't want to. I don't like go into their space, their energetic space, without permission. But I mean, if you don't fully know, it could possibly be someone from your past. It could be somebody who's energetic to you still, but it feels like you somebody in your life. Oh dear. And so why we're bringing this up, yeah, it's like it feels like in some way there's between this person, whoever this energy is, in the way of you being able to like do that. He's not trying to get all up in your energy in the same way that you might be trying to get up in his energy, right? But that why we're bringing this about is that your being needs to solidify its relationship with the earth. And this is where the food is coming in, okay? This is where the overeating is coming in, is a desire to ground and feel held by the earth. And the food is only doing that on the inner plane, right? On the body plane, which has its place. But whatever this energy is that's disconnecting you from really grounding and assimilating, we want you to just create space to feel in if this is a being that you know who it is. They're not necessarily malevolent, but what can you do re-establishing your connection with the earth in a deeper way, with really grounding into something that is bigger than your life, that can hold you, and asking the earth to also support you in releasing any of these, we just keep hearing karmic ties, right? These karmic boundaries that continue to be spurred as you're about to grow in certain areas. But they keep getting spun out, and those are things that you can cut off. We usually don't refer to it as cutting, but in this case, what is that balloon in your life that's tethered to you, that's only direction and desire is to go up and away from you, right? Maybe that is the relationship. Maybe there's energy in this relationship that's innate pattern is to float away, but is being held to you, okay? So shifting these dynamics with anyone in your life this can be related to, specifically this one being we keep seeing, whether you know who they are or not. And then getting to, if that's gone, what about your relationship with the earth? What about your relationship with anchoring yourself in something that is grounded, not something that's trying to pull you away from yourself? That's a bit to chew on. So if you can get to there, then we'll say in the next few months you'll have really solidified whatever these lessons are trying to stir up in you. But if the lesson does not get anchored, the momentum keeps building until you really settle and anchor in that. Yes. All right. All right. Oh, I'm going out. Sorry, I don't even know if you guys even heard all that. Well, in that case, if anyone's still on, can you tell me if I have good reception? Because I could be talking all for the rest of the 20 minutes by myself. And I hope, Heatherland, I hope you're able to hear that transmission, or if you're still on. Understood most of it. Well, setting the intention that you are able to receive what is. So, oh, when I started talking about that's really funny. Because as I was starting to talk about the man, it was all about this block between me being able to communicate with you. Yeah, it felt like an energetic block on your left side of your being. I don't know if you can still hear me, but or this man's getting in the way of us being able to talk about it too. Okay. And like the feeling that with the man, like what I got was it's not like if it's not something that felt like it was like a intense energy, but more like there's somebody who's like, oh, that's crazy. I know. Were you able to hear the part about anchoring? I think they got into something about balloons and like releasing these balloons. Did you hear any of that? And anchoring back into the earth. Okay. Well, there was a bunch of stuff, but I guess what I'll tell you is you do have an energy that is, or a being that has been blocking you from being able to fully be accessible and possibly taking on some of their karma. All right, so I think it looks like we don't. I mean, there's a few of you guys still on. Oh dear, let's check my. Okay, so I don't know if anyone can hear Moz right now, but if anyone, oh good, we've got another question. Great, so you can be. So we've got. Oh, nice. Okay, so moving on. Here we go, Scott. All right. Oh, you're welcome, my dear. Thanks for bearing with the being out on a mountaintop. All right, so this is for Scott. And Scott saying, it's going to ask about crystals. Lately, I've wanted to work with crystals from specific areas and buying from the people who are the miners. That's amazing and fascinating. Especially you're able to, like understand how those crystals were brought out of the earth, and even sometimes in the act of like talking and communicating and offering wisdom to the miners so that they can be done in a beautiful way. I'm just gonna get a sweater. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. It makes me think I have a friend who lives out in Santa Cruz area, and he had this journey in his life where he went out into the desert in Tucson, I believe, and just went out with very few little things, like just water bottle, maybe a little food, and the bedroll. And he just decided that he was going to unplug from like a very, very high functioning business life. And he just started exploring the desert and listening to the desert. And it got to the point where he would do these mineral meditations. And so he'd sit down and he'd meditate on a mineral every day. So just say he wanted jade or something like that. And he would just meditate on this mineral and until he started creating this, he had a lot of time in his hands. So he started creating this relationship with this mineral. And then he would just go on these walks and he would just allow himself to naturally follow the land and the desert and he got to this point where he started finding these really rare precious minerals that he was meditating on or other ones too, and to this point that he was he actually found gold, and this is a true story, and he started a mini gold rush in the desert. But he had just gotten to that point where he was working so much in just like listening to the earth, and who knows if he was also like at that point like just manifesting them from the earth, who knows. But I thought that story was fascinating to be like, well, how do we also find these minerals? And another story that I do want to share before getting more into your you've had some nice Vancouver Island ones. This is just a fun story for everyone about my first experience with crystals, because I feel called to share it, where I was in high school and a girl in my class came up to me one day. This is a true story, okay? She came up to me one day and she said, Sarah, I had this really weird experience. I want to tell you about it. And she said, I had this dream, and in the dream, you had come up to me, and she said, we were in a forest and near my house, and you'd come up to me and said, can you please find my crystals? And in the dream, I like showed her this little trail in the forest and showed her where my crystals were. And she woke up and she thought it was like the strangest dream. And that day she was actually walking by that same forest. And there was this part of her that was so curious because it was like the same area in the dream. And so she actually followed this little trail that I had showed her in the dream. And she came to crystals. She came to crystals on the ground. And there was this like little circle, and there was and for anyone that works with stones, they're I think of them and also like the major arcana. So if you're in the tarot, so there's like the major arcana of stones for beginners, and it was like clear quartz, hematite, rose quartz, and there was one other one. And so she found these crystals and she brought them to me and was like, so here are your crystals, Sarah. Because I thought it was amazing. And so that's how I started learning about crystals. I was just like, 13-year-old, didn't know anything. Moving on to your question, that was my tangent, my storyteller's tangent. So, lately I've wanted to work with crystals for specific areas and buying from the people who are the miners. Okay, let's see what they have to say about crystals, which is any guidance or insight on crystals. I wonder if I move. I'm just going to angle this. Look at my pretty tent. Right. I think the sun will be better. Okay. Yeah, thank you. All right, so this is about crystals. In order to understand the language of the stones, it's important to realize there's a language of everything in some way, right? So when listening to crystals, listening more to what stones that have been unearthed are calling for the level of support and apprenticeship that you have ready to offer. Just like we may have energetic contracts towards people in our lives, psychic contracts to beloveds, we can also have contracts to have relationships with different stones, right? And so when we get into this next layer of stone carrying, realizing what is your contract with a certain family of stone, and how can you honor that contract? In this case, perhaps you are being called to really support certain families of stones, to be an ambassador of their energy, to hold them, to anchor them. And in that support of these different stones, what in your life is ready to shift to make that physical space for them? How can you design your home even more so to account for bringing in all these stones? What kind of spatial orientation are you going to have to work with them? They're also showing me, like, so this idea that I've had and I've been really excited about for a while, and I feel like other people have had, is these stone conferences, these stone people gatherings that I've seen, and I'm just like, please, somebody or people put this together. Maybe I just need to do it. But I had this idea of bringing together different carriers of stones and having these like jams, these like crystal jams. And one of the things that could be done is like creating like grids, like going out into nature and like creating different crystal grids together. So like bringing your collections. The other one I saw that I thought was a fabulous idea was having these crystal healing jams where people bring all their crystals, and there can even be like an area where they're getting cleansed, and then you can have people laying down and offering, doing stonework on people, laying of crystals, doing crystal healing on people as like a healing practice. And so why I feel like I'm getting inspired by sharing this is realizing, as you're starting to carry and work with more stones, also how can you build even like a relationship or momentum with all the other beings that have stones in their lives? And how do we, because I feel like this is my own personal feeling, is that there's a lot of stones that don't, they don't get to really explore and experience and go on adventures. And this might sound crazy to some people, but I have a special relationship with stones. I see them as like the stone people. They have in their own way, they're connected to a consciousness of that essence. So that's a little bit about stones. And also it feels really good being able to go and connect with different stones from where they're at. And if you are going to those places, maybe not even if you're going to like the actual mine or where they're coming out of, is how can you also like bring little offerings to if you're driving through certain locations, you can like bring your stones and just creating an offering to like healing that unearthing that's happened, if there's any residual, something that, take it or leave it, but something that I had this teaching come through once when I was working with the earth, and this is in one of my class, if anyone's here that activating the stones, yes. Actually, I'm not going to get into this teaching I was going to get into. It's a whole other flavor. But yeah, bringing stones together and really starting to enliven this stone culture, because I feel like a lot of people have crystals in their lives and definitely use them in certain ways, but I feel like the actual relationship that we could have with these minerals and on a collective level could be huge. And for you, Scott, too, stones and tea go really well together. So I also serve tea, or no, it wasn't tea, you want to serve chocolate. But that could be maybe like a fun way of integrating, like doing cacao ceremony. We're also doing cacao and then bringing in the stone people and like creating some sort of like fusion. Could be fun. So moving on, I think, let's see if we have any other questions. Otherwise, it's almost 30:30. Let's see. So if anyone has a question that you would like to pop on for the Inviisbles, you are welcome to do such. We've got space probably for one. Assuming my reception is not shotty. And if not, that's wonderful too. I could just sing a little song. I'll sing a little intermission song. And if we get a question, cool. If we don't, I'm just going to say adieu. Ooh, and Scott says, I've been called to work with Arkansas. Crystals again. The question Arkansas crystal 30 years ago. Let them go somewhere. Thank you. Wonderful. Also, something that I did during my times of carrying a lot of stones was I actually like would leave. Like I went through this time where I went through this big like stone releasing things where I would just when I was in Tucson, actually in the desert, I like created like stone crystal grids and just left them there, like in the desert. Or I've used crystals. So that balance of like bringing them into our lives and also listening if our contract is to leave them, if our contract is to just pass them on. A ceremony that I've done a few times is I really love traveling with the crystal balls or crystal spheres and putting them into polluted water, because I did that when I was in Mexico, and it was so loud. The stone told me, it's like, I want to be in this water. I want to hold space for clarity. So if you think of the sphere and this crystal sphere representing that physical embodiment of pristine clarity, and then just chucking that in the river, so it can be there and be at the bottom of holding clarity. So I'm gonna sing a little song, and then I'll probably say farewell because I don't see any more questions, which is great. And I'm hoping, since this worked out, I drove like 20 minutes to make it to my tent to talk with you all. So I'm glad people popped on. I'm going to drive back to my work. Crystals and water. Yay. So I'm going to sing a little song, and then we will call it a close. Maybe the song will be about crystals. Into the darkness where the light holds no hope, and the beauty within you crystallizing true to you, and the bones that hold you, and the earth that molds you. Uncover your truth, uncover your truth, uncover your youth, uncover your truth, uncover your youth. Underneath the water, the beautiful water, where the crystals lay, holding clarity from the darkest day, from the darkest day. Holding clarity. That was a little freestyle for you all. All right, so everyone, thank you so much for popping on and greeting me at the temple tent. Here, I should actually show you. There's this beautiful redwood grove right behind me. I don't know if you can see it. Those are all redwood trees. Wow! Dessert and a teepee down there. Pretty places. All right, well, blessings to all of you, and thank you for joining me. It's beautiful under the redwood trees here in Santa Cruz, California, and I look forward to popping on next week for Ask the Invisibles at 2:30 Pacific Standard Time. So also, I'm going to be traveling up north. So I'm still on tour. I'm down in California. I'm going to be traveling up north, going through the Bay, Sebastopol, Ashland, Portland area, and I might be doing a few things along the way, offerings along the way. And if anyone is in those areas and feels called to host, I have some space the next couple of weeks to host a little private or group sessions of Ask Invisibles. So much blessings to you all, and enjoy the wilderness of your life. Hi, Mary. I'm actually signing off right now, but it's nice to see all of you. Aloha.